competitive odds, best live and play, and more ways to get into the game. Make your next bet with Sports Interaction. Head to sportsinteraction.com/STPN or download the app. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Elliotte Friedman has also reported that the Leafs have met with Sheldon Keefe a couple of times. And if he's back, he will be signed to an extension. And it looks like he will be back. They're going to sign him to at least a 1-year extension because if you have a lame duck coach, chances are your players can just tune him out if they don't like him.
Sure seems like he's getting fired at some point, eh?
I feel the exact opposite of that.
Yeah?
I think honestly, I think what's happened here is Shanny really likes the system that the Leafs had in place before. I mean, it is his system. He likes the fact that Sheldon Keefe is the winningest head coach in Leafs history by winning percentage.
Does he like running it back with the same core and coach and expecting a different result?
Yes, he does.
Cool.
And I think that's what they're going to do. So I do think Sheldon Keefe will be back, and I think that they'll sign him to at least a year extension and then perhaps more next year if he has some success. We'll see.
We certainly will see.
As expected, and I'm moving on here to...
We don't want to do the other one?
What's the other one? The other one I think is the more important quote.
Which one?
The stuff I sent you yesterday.
Bring it up. I have no idea what you sent yesterday.
The core four.
No, I have no idea. So go ahead, bring it up. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
What do you have?
There was reports yesterday from 32 Thoughts that they want to
de-emphasize the core four.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The people were upset about the core four. There's so much attention on them, so they want to go into next year.
But they're not. The only way to de-emphasize them is for them not to exist in their current iteration.
Yeah.
That's all we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jesse, I'm just looking at it now. I apologize. So much happened yesterday.
A lot.
So my apologies.
I just...
Hold on. How did they say they want to de-emphasize it, Jess?
I can play a little of it if you want.
It.
The report.
This is courtesy of Sportsnet. 32 Thoughts.
Well, the one thing I wanted to mention about this was I had a very interesting phone call with someone about all this stuff about, who's signing for what and everything. And they said to me that they believe that one of the things that came out of this season was that the Toronto wanted to de-emphasize the core four.
What does that mean?
Well, that's a great question, Jeff, and I'm going to answer it for you.
I'm sorry I interrupted.
Not that the organization feels anything negative towards those players, but I think there was a feeling amongst just the entire group, like other players on the team, some of the coaching staff, the front office and the organization, that there's too much about them. Too much about the core four, and then I don't know, what do you call them, the other 19? They felt it interfered in the growth of the team. And one of the things I heard that was talked about was, if you take a look at the third and fourth line over the last few years, there's been a lot of turnover. And what someone indicated to me was, the feeling was that they haven't done a good enough job as a group, like everybody, creating an identity for other players on the roster.
Yeah, but no, those are the only players that matter.
And that's the problem.
No, they're not.
They're the difference maker.
That's the problem.
Who have failed to make a difference.
Yes, yeah. But so then if you want to de-emphasize it, the only way to do that, because fans aren't stupid, they'll look at Cap Friendly. They know who the results are expected from. How do you expect David Kampf or Alex Kerfoot, who did play in the top six, or Nicholas Robertson, if he cracks in? How do you expect any of those guys? Matthew Nyes, who we expect to be a full NHLer next year. Who else played on in the bottom six? Noel Acciari, if he's back. Yep. How do you expect them to eclipse the money and the stardom of the four guys that you're paying the most money to? I don't see how you de-emphasize that. If the Leafs are like, okay, well, we're just not going to include all of them on the same poster that we post outside of Scotiabank, fine, go ahead and do that. But do you think that fans are going to stop buying their jerseys or stop referring to them as that? Because the media and the fans are not.
No, I don't think you're appreciating how bad of a quote that is. That is. Listen, there are camps within this team and within the core four. They listen to everything. And that quote's going to go over like a wet fart.
Okay, so tell me why.
Because it's going to make them sound coddled. It's going to make them sound
They are.
entitled. Listen, you don't have to tell me, but it's going to make them sound that way. And I think it just puts even more pressure on them. Like, listen, beyond the cap friendly conversation we were saying, these guys hate seeing their friends leave. And not just their friends who are good at hockey.
Zach Hyman.
Morgan Riley in Vegas, Henderson, at the beginning of the season, we were talking about the most underrated players in the league. Everyone said Barkov. A couple guys said Deneau. Morgan Riley was brilliant because he comes in and he's like, well, I'm sure everyone said Barkov. And I go, you're right. And he goes, so I'm going to go Zach Hyman. And I'm just like, well, damn, Morgan Riley. And then Zach Hyman goes off for the best year of his entire career. Ilya Mikheyev is another one of those guys. Michael Bunting has been an extremely useful player for the Leafs on a ridiculously valued contract. And guess what? He's gone. And you're going to have to get a new one. Every year, you got to do this again and again and again.
Yes.
And how do you establish an identity when every year you're having to work in new guys?
Well, then you're going to have to change the way you structure your cap.
No fucking shit.
Or
feel
you
like-
do it for another year.
Down to.
Why aren't we? I don't understand why we're not screaming this from the rooftops. That one of them has to go. I'm super not looking forward to it. I'm not like okay. We know it's not going to be Matthews. It can't be Tavares. So it's Nylander and or Marner. That's the beginning, middle, and end of this conversation. Unless you're content with simply trying it again.
The same thing that hasn't worked for 7 years.
Unless you're content with simply trying it again, that's what you have to do. That's it. It's not a particularly complicated conversation.
So then from what I get from that quote, though, if I'm not mistaken, I don't hear anything in that quote that leads me to believe that the Leafs are going to move on from this. And we also know from CJ on the CJ show, that was, by the way, nicely quoted by a whole bunch of outlets and then didn't credit the CJ show.
Oh, he just said it walking down the sidewalk?
Yeah, he just said it. He just was like walking around, guys, and then a whole bunch of major media outlets just happened to be there. But CJ,
Adam.
CJ said on the show that Shanny called all four of the guys and left them all with the impression that they're staying. So let me ask you guys this. How do you de-emphasize the core four if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs while keeping them? Because I think that's what's going to happen here, or they're going to try. Because here's what I think is going to happen with the Leafs. They're keeping these guys together. They're going to sign the Matthews extension in the fall. They're going to get Willie under contract, and then the cap's going up $5 million next year, and that's what they're relying on. That's what I think is going to happen.
There's a moment in Red Dead Redemption 2 where Hosea looks at his good friend Dutch Vanderlyn and says, "You'll damn us all." And he was right. I just can't help but feel like sticking to this plan, you'll damn us all.
Jesse, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think things change when you get new information. And I think Brad Treliving isn't beholden to what Shanahan might have said a couple weeks ago or the conversations that he had with Marner, Nylander, Tavares, and Matthews. If Brad Treliving comes in and he looks at the situation and he says, hey, the best way to move forward is get rid of one of these pieces, I can entirely see it happening. And I don't see how you run it back with the same pieces and you expect a different result. So I'm interested to see the conclusion that Treliving draws from this as he grows in the organization. It's like, okay, he evaluates the talent, he evaluates the salary cap situation. If he says the best way to move forward is to stick with this four core, and then we try the same thing about we move pieces around, but I'm going to get the different pieces on the chessboard. He might try that, but he might also look at it now that he's in, and he might say, hey, the best way to move forward is to de-emphasize the core four and move one out. And then we have more room to work. We have less emphasis on these just four guys, and we can build a better team that way. So I think it's entirely up in the air how they move forward here. It's a moving target. It's not, hey, Shanahan made a decision a couple weeks ago to bring them all back and that's it. No, we're all evaluating here. We'll see what comes up, and everything's kind of on the table from here on out.
I am excited to sit down and just dedicate some time to, basically making like an investigation corkboard, trying to figure out who these guys like Listen, hockey is very predictable, at least in terms of off the ice. Shane Doan is going to have someone from the Coyotes organization he covets and wants to bring over. Brad Treliving is going to have someone from the Flames who he covets and wants to bring over. And if they bring in another assistant coach, they're going to have someone who they covet as well, I'm sure.
Shane Doan, by the way, was officially announced a couple minutes ago as the special advisor to the general manager. No press conference, but a press release. He has joined the Toronto Maple Leafs front office.
There you go.